You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another star-studded and excited edition of Global Trade This Week, brought to you by our friends at Cap Logistics. I am Pete Mento, and with me, as always, is my great friend, Doug Draper. I'm coming to you live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Doug is, of course, in Denver, Colorado. Doug, looking dapper, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Lovely. Great weekend. It's a Monday, summertime. Life's good. Life is good.
Are you growing a beard, or did you shave with a spoon today?
I'm just kind of, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But yeah. Anyway.
Are you just so full of testosterone that as soon as you shave, it starts growing right back? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it may be. So, Pete, here's a funny story. You didn't ask me this, but I'm going to tell you. So I'm doing this bike ride. I did it last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
80 miles down to Colorado Springs for a group of college kids biking across the country for Alzheimer's. So I'm training. And I had a tire pop when I was training on Saturday morning. And I had all the right stuff. I just didn't have the lever that pops the tire off the rim, that you can zip it around so you can get access to the tube. So I'm in the middle of BFE, like up by the airport. If anybody knows where the airport is in Denver, extreme northeast. And I'm sitting there, I got the pump, I got everything, I just can't get to my tire. So I ended up finding an old caulk gun, right? I was kind of near this construction site. So an old caulk gun, and I used the bottom half of it to pop out the tire. And then I needed another piece of plastic to take the tire off of the rim. And there was a toilet off kind of in a ditch. So I went over there into the bowl of the toilet, and I was smashing some stuff up, and I found this piece of plastic, and I was able to get the tire off the rim. So there I am at 8 o'clock in the morning in the middle of nowhere with a flat tire, going all MacGyver on my bike with a tube of, not a tube, but a caulk gun and plastic stuff from a toilet. So I have no idea why I just told you that. Maybe that's something to do with the beard. Maybe that was what sparked my memory. But anyway,
it's very reminiscent of Tim the Toolman Taylor. Like you were sitting there, with your shirt ripped off, just sucking down whiskey, fixing your bike, using nothing but rocks and twigs. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I was debating calling an Uber and going home, and I'm like, what? Then I said, WWPD, what would Pete do? And Pete would never call an Uber to get him out of trouble. So
no, I would have walked home with that bike strapped to my shoulders. I would have, there would have been some stuff going down, my friend. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Tattoos glistening in the sun and the whole bit. You know it. Yeah. All right, buddy. So kick us off with our first topic this week.
All right. Well, this is a little bit kind of different. I saw this article over the weekend about an entity of Microsoft called Microsoft Startup, and or Microsoft Startups, plural. And it's this. Their tagline is "Open to anyone with an idea," and essentially it's kind of like Shark Tank-esque, right? And it started making me think that maybe we need to have a Shark Tank-esque type of thing with the logistics world. So this Microsoft startup basically says, pitch us your ideas. If you have anybody with an idea or whatever, we can look at helping to fund it, give you access, help to integrate. And so I started thinking that's with the amount of tech and the LogTech or logistical tech, whatever word people are using, and how rapidly it's changing, developing, and you got final mile, which is a big one, visibility with it is a big one. So my take is, do you think that there will be a large company like an Amazon or Walmart, things of that nature, that are essentially going to say, let's have other people deal with our R&D to come up with some creative ideas, and essentially pitch like a Shark Tank, and will it kind of be the new platform to find the new stuff? Because as we've talked about, Pete, the entrepreneurial spirit has just exploded. And there's really three things. Number one, startups are flourishing in the final mile and in DC innovation, distribution centers, throwing technology in robotics around that. So there's all kinds of these small players you kind of hear about. They make a splash, so they're out there. How do you give them a buoy to really see if their products can scale? And it's easy for the big boys to come in there and say, I like this guy, I like that guy, and take the best of the best. And is it kind of free R&D, research and development? So I love the idea with Microsoft startups, and being a nerd in the logistics community in the world. I'm like, hey, maybe that could work in the logistics arm. So I think we'll see something like that. To be frank with you, Pete, maybe it exists in some level out there right now, but it just sparked my interest to say that's a way to find the best and the brightest and have them come to you and really take their ideas, their technology, and their spirit and just skyrocket it to the next level. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Far-fetched?
Not at all. I think that you've actually got your finger on the button of something here, and you've taken it a bit to the next level. So, Adele, my partner, and I, on our tech endeavors, we actually went to Microsoft Startup, and a lot of our infrastructure came from. It's them taking they're taking a bet on you, but also if it works, everything that you've built has been built with their standards in mind. Mm-hmm. So you're a Microsoft shop, which we were going to be anyway. So, no great surprise. But it's also their ability, if they see something that really could be a game changer, they're on the ground floor, and you've built it with all their tech in mind. But what you were talking about there is something that I'm already beginning to see. We're very large freight forwarding companies like Expeditors, as an example. They've built incubators. They've built technology incubators where they're making grassroots investments in logistics technology companies that they have found have a great idea and have really good leadership. And they're putting the money into it now so that they could offer it as a service to other companies if it goes somewhere and if it grows, so that they can own that service, because it could be the next big thing, like you said. And they're not the only one. There are other companies that are doing it as well. We're old enough to remember when technology as a service was a really revolutionary idea. And now transportation companies, they're not going to get anywhere if they don't have that as part of their portfolio. And I think that what was a relatively new idea, say 10 years ago, is going to have to become the standard if people are expecting to make it anywhere. So yeah, Doug, not only do I think it's a good idea, I'm willing to bet that that's going to become the standard. That if you don't have a couple $1 billion that you're willing over the next 10 years to put into this, you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in, buying your technology services from one of your competitors.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, well, I'm glad we're on the same page with that one. So, Pete, I love your topics today. So let's fire up with your first one.
Yeah, man. I remember when I was a little kid, there was always some sort of a metaphor for how many people were in China, or how much was in China, for all the tea in China. It felt like I was in Beijing. It was always some metaphor for how many people were in China, and there could never be as many people in China. But a quick demographic conversation now will quickly lead you to understand that that's no longer the case. China's economy and China's population is going in reverse. The one China policy, or the one child China policy, is no longer the case. The Chinese government is actually encouraging people to have 3 children, encouraging them with tax write-offs, tax rebates, and doing everything they can for the Chinese to have more Chinese people. They're doing that because their population is going in reverse. They've reached that 1.4 billion, which is just an inconceivable number. Right? They expect to hit that number at some point by 2200, and that feels crazy.
2100.
2100. Sorry, 2100. That feels crazy to say, doesn't it? Like 2100, and it's going to start going backwards. So by 2300, they're going to have less than 540 million people. So you're talking about having about, what's that? A little less than a third of those people, a little more than a third of those people are going to be gone. So from 1.4 billion people to 540 million people in China. The United States of America right now is about 340 million people. The best demographic study will tell you that we're going to be lucky around that same time to have a little over 140 million people in this country. Why? People are getting married later. Women, I guess I should think about
Watch
how
yourself. Watch
phrase
yourself.
this. Yeah. Birthing people, or however we want to put it, are deciding to have children later in life. And just because of the complexities of fertility in modern Earth, people are having a harder and harder time having children. And in doing so, it's making it more difficult to have multiple births. And also, we don't live in an agrarian society. I think I've said this multiple times on the show. My grandfather had 12 brothers and sisters on my father's side. On my mother's side, I think it was, without adoptions, it was like 12 because they were farmers. You had a lot of kids on farms because you had to have labor. So it's just not normal anymore to have big farm families like it used to be. It's expensive to have children. What does that mean for geopolitics? What does it mean for logistics? It means you're going to have less people to feed. It means you're probably going to have less people consuming. And because our economies are built on consumption, it's going to mean that global trade is going to change drastically with it as well. And with that drastic change in consumption, probably a drastic change in the way the economy, ecology, logistics, transportation, and ultimately maybe even innovation go along with it. Fewer people mean fewer ideas. I don't know, Doug. I think this could be the sleeper biggest topic. The biggest topic maybe of all. If there are fewer people consuming, what does that mean for the way that we deal with the environment? This is a big, big thing that I don't think enough people are talking about, pal.
Yeah, I have mixed. Pete, I'm going to have to, I don't know, disagree seems like a strong word.
One more thing.
Yeah.
India very soon will overcome China as the world's most populated economy.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead and disagree with me.
No. So I don't disagree with the premise, Pete, and I always, I don't know. I'm not picking a fight here. This is the counterpoint of the show, right?
Yep.
So two things. Number one, 2100 is 3 generations away. I think a generation is defined by 30 years, right? Or 28 or whatever. So it's 3 generations away. And you just made mention of it. The Chinese government is pretty damn powerful, can inflict a lot of direction onto their population. And if they want to turn the boat in 90 years, in 3 generations to move in a certain way, I think they can do it. You spoke a little bit about it. They did it when it was the one-child policy. Now it's 3, so let's go. So it's 3 generations to change that trajectory. Then the second piece is, I think those statistics are probably valid in a vacuum. There's a lot of other forces and figures out there and things that we don't even know exist yet that are going to impact population growth in 80 years. So yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from, but I think there's enough time there to affect change, specifically in China as well, because it's 3 generations away.
I don't know, Doug. I think that there's a lot of demographics and economics that are against the argument, because the more wealthy an economy becomes, just the less fertile it becomes, first of all. And then second of all, the more economically developed an economy becomes, the less likely the women of their economy, the birthing people of their economy become likely to want to have multiple births or to have children at all. It's a strange correlation. And I don't want to believe it either. You know, every science fiction movie you ever see, there's like people everywhere, right? And I can see the argument from both angles, but the futurist in me and the economist in me sees that the motivations for having fewer children are probably going to outweigh the motivation for having more. And I'm beginning to believe the folks that look at it more negatively, but I'll be dead. So I don't think I'll know.
Yeah. Well, I saw you pondering there, Pete. You were looking off camera and you were really getting deep in your thought.
Yeah. I think about this stuff a lot, man. There's a lot of crazy things I think about. That's one of them I think a lot about.
Yeah. And the other thing is our show, Pete, is all about future. We look forward, not behind.
Yes, we do.
And the beauty of that is that Cap Logistics enables us to do that. We're sitting here, you and I, talking, pontificating on the world, global trade, international transportation, economics. And as we said, if it wasn't for Cap Logistics pushing the buttons and turning the levers, we wouldn't be here. So I want to thank those guys and visit them at caplogistics.com. There you go. Now let's roll into halftime, man. I think both of our themes, we didn't even talk about it, but they both have a common link. So you can go first, and then I'll pop off with mine, or vice versa, whatever you want.
Yeah, buddy. I'll go first. So, a lot of coverage this weekend about Queen Elizabeth and her big jubilee. Congratulations, Your Highness. I am a proud American, so I'm not a big believer in monarchies, but I do like the elderly for a lot of reasons. One of them is they get to tell a pretty cool story. And I did read an article about all of the things that the Queen has seen in her life. And I was talking to Amy this week, Mrs. Trade Nerd, about the things that her father probably saw in his life too, but just all the things the Queen has seen in her lifetime, right? When she was born, most people on Earth didn't even have a radio. And now she's living in a world where most of the facts and information in the news, when it happens, like it's immediately in a magic box in your pocket. Like when she was born, manned flight wasn't even a concept, and she's lived to see people on the moon. And now we're talking about realistically going to other planets on a lark. In one lifetime, all of the amazing things that this woman has gotten to see. And then, again, looking off into the distance longingly, I started thinking about all the cool things that we've gotten to see. And I'm 50, and I don't know if I've got another 20 days or 20 years or 40 years left in me. But realistically, what else am I going to get to see? We're living in arguably some of the most amazing scientific times of our conceivably. And between 1890 and 1930, that was one of the last great explosions of scientific discovery. Just imagine what we're going to get to say that we saw before they turned the lights out on us, pal. I think that's a pretty incredible opportunity for us. So, yeah, the Queen, man, she's gotten to see wars, famine, great plagues and great human misery, but she's also gotten to see some pretty cool things happen. So congratulations, Your Highness. I'm pretty glad I'm not British, but it's pretty cool that someone's gotten to see as many amazing things as you have.
Yeah, it's good. Good point. Makes you think.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking about, Pete, is I wonder if she's ever been to the Cooper's Hill cheese rolling and wake, as it's referred to. I don't know.
Why do they call it a wake?
I don't know. I just literally cut and pasted that off because I didn't want to screw it up or say it incorrectly. So if there are any Brits out there, they come ripping in like you're an idiot. So I'm not sure, but it was held in conjunction with the celebration. So literally yesterday. So today on June 5th, it's an annual for our listeners. Here's the deal. It's an annual event where participants race down 200-yard long hill, and they're chasing a 9-foot round of cheese. It's double Gloucester cheese.
That's really good. Double Gloucester is really good. Yeah. And 9 foot around of seriously, a wheel of cheese that big?
Sorry if I said foot around, 9 pound.
That's so
I don't know.
cheese.
It's looks like a bowling ball. It's like 4 inches wide and a big wheel. And they kick that thing down the hill, and you get a bunch of knuckleheads that chase after it. The piece of cheese or the roll of cheese can get up to 70 miles an hour, and you got these guys that are just racing after it. And the pitch, this is crazy. The pitch of the hill that they do it on Cooper's Hill is a 70-degree angle at first, and then it flattens out to 50 degrees. So if you pull up some video, you get these guys. You may have seen them running, and they jump, and then they kind of roll. And whoever gets to the bottom first and gets the cheese, they win. So it's crazy. I saw some video on it. I'd encourage our audience to go check it out. Maybe Pete or maybe Keenan can throw a link in there. But here's the cool thing. So the cheese gets a net. When it gets down there, there's a 250-foot-long net. So the cheese is bouncing. It gets stopped. But the participants, when they get to the bottom, they don't go into the net. They get rugby tackled by rugby players that they bring in. So that, I saw a couple videos on that. Imagine hauling ass down a hill and a rugby guy just stops you cold in your tracks. That is probably more painful than the run down the hill.
How do we get a job as one of the tacklers?
Yeah, exactly. But it's been going on since 1826, and nobody's ever died. But there's twisted ankles, and sometimes the cheese will bounce off and hit some spectators. So it's pretty wild. And the awesome thing is, this year it was won by a guy named Robbie Grabels, but there's a guy named Chris Anderson, I believe. He's won it 22 times. He's essentially the Jimmy Chestnut or the Joey Chestnut of the cheese. So they got their ringer over there. But this is the most interesting thing, Pete. Unfortunately, that Green Bay Packer fans generally don't participate because they want to chase a sausage and brat as well as cheese down the hill. So they don't throw sausages and brats. So usually Green Bay Packer fans don't show up. I don't know. That's the last thing I read about it.
Doug, I tell you over and over again, leave the funny to me.
Okay. That was funny though, Pete. Come on.
It was not.
Yeah.
It was not. Regional sausage humor does not play well on the internet TV show.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I like cheese, buddy, but I'm not flinging my body down a hill for it. I could just go to Whole Foods and get it, man. That's
good.
That sounds crazy. I gotta watch the videos now.
Yeah, we'll get Keenan to throw. Anyway, he can find it. He's a smart guy. But it is crazy, especially the rugby tackles. I saw one this morning. Oh my God, I think the guy broke his ribs.
I'm gonna watch it.
Dead stop.
Okay, man. Take us to your second topic.
All right. So mine, I'm flipping over to transportation in the trucking industry, primarily full truckload. And you always talk about tight capacity, driver shortages, all that kind of stuff. And it ebbs and flows, especially in the full truck market, based on, just the natural flow of consumer behavior and things of that nature. So in June, you would think that there'd be kind of a slow month with summer coming around, but I'm predicting based on some research and some history. So maybe it's not a prediction, but I'm here to tell you, Pete, that June is going to be crazy tight for truck capacity, and rates in the spot market are continued to be very extreme. And I say that for four reasons. Number one, it sounds trivial, but it's fruit season. And so you have all the fruit that's grown in the southern regions and out west. Fruit and reefer trucks pay more than a pallet full of steel going to some manufacturing spot. So you have all these truckers that have reefers are chasing the money. So fruit season absorbs a lot of capacity. This one's a little different. I hadn't thought about it, but it kind of makes sense. Household goods and moving season. Yes, there are moving and storage companies, but a lot of people do it themselves. And you see, I think ABF is a big company that does personal moving. So everybody moves in the summer. That's the natural trend with kids transitioning to school. So moving season. This year, June is end of quarter. It's always end of quarter, but the end of quarter comes on a Thursday and 4th of July is on a Monday. So those two times come really, really close together, which means if you're trying to get freight out the door by the end of the quarter, you're going to get bumped up against the 4th of July, which hits right there on a Monday after a weekend. That's going to be problematic. And the one piece that will be short-lived, but it will be long enough to impact for June is the whole baby formula replenishment now that the plants are coming back online. If you're a trucker and you want to chase some money, you're going to be heading up to Michigan or heading out west or down south. So the simple nature of trucks, especially owner-operators and smaller fleets, hey, I'm going to go where the money is. You can't blame them. And those four things are going to have June as a pretty tight truck market, and it's going to be real expensive in the spot market for pricing. Maybe things will let up in July, but June's going to be pretty crazy.
Well, it's pretty brutal. Thanks for more great news, Doug. I thought I was the one that always came on this show and made everyone feel depressed and sad. And then you have to make everyone feel depressed and sad in summer when this is supposed to be, like happy, good times, end of COVID summer. So
I didn't use the term death of hope, though, so it's not over the top.
Yeah. Hey, man, death of hope is one of my favorite things I've ever said on the show. I 100% agree with you, and I think you've also forgotten the fuel problem as well.
Valid.
I think you're going to have I think the fuel shortages that come with it, the fact that diesel is actually going to be more difficult to find than people realize. That's also going to be a contributing factor to costs as well. And I think continued driver shortages. that there's going to be drivers who are going to be taking some time off after some difficult months, and drivers are going to be a little more, picky and choosy about where they want to be and what they want to do, as well they should be. A lot more contributing factors than people want to realize. So yeah, man, June's going to suck. And spoiler alert, I don't think July is going to be much better, pal.
Yeah. All right. Well, bring us home, my man. I like your last one.
Yeah. In the words of Sean Connery in The Untouchables, never, ever bring a gun to a knife fight. Oh, wait a minute. Never bring a knife to a gunfight. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Over the course of the past couple of months, a lot of importers from Chinese-based ports have taken advantage of soft rates out of the Trans-Pacific market to renegotiate lower ocean rates in the hopes of taking advantage of what has been a relatively soft market. And let's face it, with COVID shutdowns, things have been pretty soft. Of course they are. Nothing's moving. So of course they're going to be soft rates, but it's unlikely and pretty naive to think those rates are going to remain soft when Chinese-based ports open again, particularly when you're going to have so many equipment issues. So here's my advice. It's probably not a good idea to go into the reopening of China with your soft rates thinking they're going to be honored. So going into this with these relatively small forwarders who have tried to buy your business with soft rates, who do not have the power with these ocean carriers to get them to actually ship your goods on these vessels, to have the power to find your chassis, that have the power to find you containers and expect your stuff to actually move, not a good look, bro. I think it's probably a better idea to go into these situations knowing what you should know to have negotiated a better position for yourself. I'm happy you found those lower rates. It probably isn't a bad idea to have a plan B. Yes, you're probably going to get some of that stuff to move, but you might want to think about having a backup and having some of your capacity actually signed to somewhat higher rates just in case. Because I'm telling you right now, it's about to be a crap show of absolutely biblical proportions coming out of China for a little while. And you're probably going to want to have something as a backup plan, because when this thing goes south, and it will, people that have paid the right rates and have the right relationships are going to be happy that they did.
Yeah, it's a valid. I was thinking about this one, and I just went to a gambling metaphor that the house always wins, right? So you can chase the rabbit and try to find a few bucks here and there, but once you set that into motion, you have no control to pull it off. I mean, yeah, you could stop it in LA or do whatever, but I'll tell you what, when that boat sails, the individual control of a smaller consumer that's going to try to circumvent and work the system is non-existent. So that's something to be aware of. And the one piece, Pete, I think that the longshoremen and the warehouse union, International Longshoremen and Warehouse Union, those negotiations, I think that they're going to create this aura of uncertainty while they're in that negotiation, which I think will exasperate kind of the craziness that you've predicted that I believe will also transpire. So who knows? I think that's part of the problem there. But yeah, the house always wins. Just remember that. And you chase the rabbit for some money, you're going to get burned.
Yep. And one more thing I'll add to that. So the company you work for, do you own any equipment?
Yes. We own our asset. We own our trucks. We mostly lease buildings.
Yeah. And those trucks, right, it gives you a certain amount of power in the marketplace to make decisions. You can control some of your decisions ultimately, right? Mm-hmm. For most of us, we're unable to do that. But in times of struggle, it puts you in a bad position too. So it's not like anybody ever really wins. There's always going to be ups and downs in the marketplace, and there's always risks to everyone. People don't seem to realize that that's part of operating in a market. At some point, there's someone who's always going to be on the bad end of a ledger, right? So there was a time in the marketplace when all the ocean carriers just lost, constantly, endlessly lost. And right now, what they're trying to do is come up with a way to maintain profits in what is a good marketplace. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone at all that they're doing everything they can to maintain those profits when they can, because the market will change. And when it does, they'll be scrambling again to try to find ways to be profitable in what will be a soft market.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, Pete, you know who usually doesn't lose in these situations is our listeners who decide to join us every week on Global Trade This Week. That, Pete, is one of the best transitions out that I think I've come up with. And literally the beauty of it, I just thought of it like 3 seconds ago. So I just want to thank our listeners because you are winners from jumping in here and seeing Pete. Pete, you're an animal. I'm in my desk with Troy over my shoulder most times, and you're a world traveler, and you always figure out a way to get on camera and stay point every week. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Keenan. Thank you, Cap Logistics.
Absolutely. So anyway, there we go. It's a wrap, and we will catch everybody next week. Thanks for listening. Please comment. We like to hear what you have to say about our takes and everything else. So Global Trade This Week. We're done.
See you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Pete.
See ya. Congratulations, Hudson. See ya.